John Wojtowicz was pleased with the operation. In principle, the result was realized, although it was not possible to steal the experimental samples that the Chinese managed to obtain. The airfield base in Palyanhai was a transit point, and the main research was conducted in Anhui. The Chinese probably had God knows what else there. The narrow-eyed ones were digging in the same direction as the US Secret Services. Who would have thought? Wojtowicz ran his eyes over and over the photos fused from the cloud of Special Agent Camille Gorup. A damn smart bitch. She decided to hedge her bets. But she didn't even suspect what the whole thing might turn out to be. In fact, she pulled out the implementation of the operation, losing all her people. But something needs to be solved. Wojtowicz lounged impressively in an armchair in his office, lit a cigar while waiting for the convoy, which was already taking a step down the corridor. Wojtowicz was smiling in anticipation. There was a knock on the door. "Come in." The door opened and Camille Gorupe entered the office, or rather she did not enter herself. She was led by two hefty soldiers in field uniforms and balaclavas. The senior reported,
Former Special Agent of the U.S. Army MTR, Camille Gorupe, has been delivered.
Wojtowicz was smiling. "You're free." The head of the convoy was delayed. According to the instructions, they must be accompanied from expulsion to placement in a special prison cell. Wojtowicz stopped smiling and said coldly, "I said we're free." The soldiers withdrew. Wojtowicz smiled again, looking at the face of a woman exhausted by insomnia and interrogations, and her lip was swollen. The thugs overdid the campaign, but they were ordered not to exert physical pressure. Wojtowicz was once again acutely aware of the fact that he was surrounded by cretins. People need to be changed, but where can I get them? "Have a seat, Agent Gorupa. Coffee, a cigarette?" The woman was silent, hatred lurking in the depths of her eyes. "Let me introduce myself. I am the head of the Department of Special Studies, a small closed society that reports directly to the President and the head of the Pentagon. My name is John Wojtowicz." Camille grinned, tilting her head to the side.
I know exactly who you are. Your special operation in Yugoslavia is described in the manuals for special forces with mention of your name. I'm sorry, but are you going to keep chewing snot, or are we going to get down to business?
Wojtowicz looked her straight in the eye. "Damn smart bitch." The officer made a mock gesture with his hands. "Well, to the point, so to the point. Officially, you died during a special operation. The Ministry of Defense has written you off. However, you are alive. What should we do now?" Camilla was silent, and Wojtowicz spoke as if thinking aloud. "And the special operation was not implemented. You failed the whole case, Special Agent Gorupe." The woman was silent. Wojtowicz was looking at her. Wild as a cat but smart, silent, waiting for how it will end. "Besides, you stole secret data that was not intended for your analysis. I'm talking about the photos on your cloud. After all, we can consider this fact as high treason with the subsequent death penalty, isn't it?" Gorupe laughed audaciously.
Wojtowicz, I know your working methods perfectly well. Without insurance, you would have destroyed me and my people immediately after the implementation of the special operation. It's my lucky chance that this fucking bastard crawled out of that girl and took a lookout in a helicopter.
Wojtowicz's tone has changed. "In short, everything will be like this from now on. You will explain in detail the circumstances of the crash of the transport helicopter and your subsequent actions within 4 hours. After that, you will be put back in the cell. Then I'll think about what to do with you." Not a single muscle on the face of Special Agent Camille Gorupe did not flinch, but inwardly she was smiling. It means that everything is still going on for her. Her life will not end with execution, followed by crematorium. Wojtowicz pressed a button mounted on the countertop. Almost immediately, a convoy entered the office. "Take him away. Arrange for paper and writing devices to be provided to the cell, which the prisoner will request." From the report of Special Agent Camille Gorupe.
My men and I were in the troop compartment, which was separated from the cargo compartment by a bulkhead. While crossing the border between China and the Russian Federation, I heard a woman scream. 2 scientists and a senior security guard who was on board ran through our compartment towards the cargo compartment. I ordered my men to put their weapons on alert and prepare for any outcome. Screams and shots rang out behind the bulkhead in the cargo hold. Then someone was hitting the bulkhead from the other side. From the 3rd or 4th impact, a gap formed in the bulkhead. I ordered fire, but thanks to the bullet holes, the gap widened. During the battle, I lost 3 people killed and 2 more wounded. The reptiloid, I'll call it that, broke through to the cockpit of the helicopter, after which the crash occurred. I found broken flasks with reptilian embryos and a surviving scientist at the crash site. Then you know everything.
Wojtowicz scanned the report with his eyes. Basically nothing new. It was unknown how Gorupe herself survived. Besides, Wojtowicz was interested in a short encrypted recording at the bottom. Anyone who saw this recording would not understand anything. It was written in an old cipher, which Wojtowicz himself used at the dawn of his service, being a field special agent. The postscript read,
My people had with them cover documents confirming their involvement in the Russian army. The trail is shot down in their direction. Let the Chinese sort out their relations with our potential opponent. The flasks with embryos are buried near the crash site. I made the old smart guy talk.
Wojtowicz finished reading the report and smiled again, repeating to himself once again, Damn smart bitch. At the same time, he pulled 2 sheets of stamps towards him. One of them was an order for the execution of Gorupa, and the second for enrollment under Sanders. Wojtowicz stuffed the execution order into a shredder. The head of the department did not notice how the cigar went out. The last few days were very stressful. The lack of normal sleep and stress were doing their job. Wojtowicz was very tired, and Corny wanted to sleep, became a little distracted. He had to finish the analytical summary, and after that he promised himself to get a good night's sleep. Wojtowicz opened the folder, a personal dossier on the captured scientist. Deng Huoting, 68 years old, a luminary of microbiology and genetics. There was a photo of him in the case taken during a preliminary interrogation already in the United States. According to protocol, they were polite and courteous with the scientist, but put him in conditions where refusal would mean imminent death. But before his execution, under the influence of powerful drugs and hypnosis, he would have filled out a bunch of sheets while humming to himself and truly rejoicing at the opportunity to share information. From the analytical report.
We were lucky. Deng Huoting supervised all the research on the project, called the Blue Dragon by the Chinese Special Services. Currently, he is pouring out all the information he has accumulated with frenzied enthusiasm, but painstaking verification of each fact will be required. Deng Huoting may turn out to be a fanatic who feeds us desa.
What has been found out so far?
1. The Chinese have discovered a way to safely place embryos in the uterus of incubators. Pre-embryos are cultured in vitro and seeded at the stage of replacement of the flexible dorsal cord with the spinal column. 2. Breakthrough results have been achieved in maintaining the health of incubators until the delivery period. 3. Genetic research has begun to improve the fighting qualities of embryos. Currently, a preliminary conclusion can be drawn that the hybrids were prepared by the Chinese to wage war. Deng Huoting could not answer the question of where they got the alien technology from, but it may well be that they also accidentally, like us, came across a woman who was abducted and raped by reptilian aliens. In addition, I consider it a very important fact that all models and the only experienced incubator were delivered to the base in Pailianhai. Currently, the Chinese do not have research on the topic of human and reptilian hybridization. All their accumulated knowledge, including scientists, died during the crash of our transport helicopter on the border of the Russian Federation and China. The base in Anhui was transferred to Harbin, and we chose the perfect combination of time and circumstances for the special operation.
Wojtowicz closed the folder. The only thing that remained unclear was the question of the hybrid that was born directly in the helicopter. Camille Gorup did not give an explanation. She did not see him dead. It may well be that he died in a crash under the rubble, but he could have survived. Heilongjiang should be Chinese both under and above the river, which the Russians call Amur. This territory has belonged to the Celestial Empire from time immemorial. This was the reasoning of a middle-aged Chinese man pushing through the taiga forest. The Chinese led a small group of poachers who hunted bears near the border of the Russian Amur region. In addition to hunting, they hunted ginseng. The Russians, by the way, hunted about the same, but they did not enter Chinese territory. But the Chinese came to the Russian one and never hesitated to do so. Neither the Russian border guards, seasoned as wolves, nor international agreements scared them, and if someone was scared, then let them stay at home in the village and eat empty rice or millet porridge. The Chinese grinned, but after just a few seconds he became alert. Ahead in the tract, someone growled deep in his throat. Birds took off, and a porcupine quickly ran out from behind a bush, followed by his brood. The Chinese ordered his friends to stop and take aim at the tract. He himself took out a machete and went forward. He could distinguish the roar of a rare Ussuri tiger from the roar of a bear, and of course from the hungry or well-fed grunting of a cleaver. An animal unknown to the Chinese was growling. It may well be that it was a wolf, wounded or completely starved, which was impossible in principle. The forest was teeming with game. A minute later, the Chinese ran out of the tract. His narrow eyes widened like saucers in fear. His friends, not understanding, opened fire and almost hit the poor guy himself. But that was fine with him.
Shoot! Shoot, I said. There's a dragon.
The surviving embryo was slowly coming out of the tract, falling on its forelimbs. The eyes did not shine with a bright yellow color, but were cloudy. Foam was coming from a narrow mouth. The reptilian moved his legs, but could not stand, and all the time fell forward. He was dying. Something had gone wrong in the hybrid genome. He was dying. Taking another step, the hybrid fell on its back and turned sideways, exposing a relatively soft underbelly. After firing a clip of carbines at the monster, the Chinese approached.
What is this?
The Chinese leader came to his senses.
Who the hell knows? The Russians used to conduct some kind of tests here. Maybe it crept across the border from them. Don't get too close.
With that, he pointed the carbine at the monster. He aimed at the head and fired, shattering the skull.
Now you can.
And what are we going to do with it? Should I inform the authorities?
The Chinese leader was silent. Thoughts were layered in his head about who would later buy the paws of this dragon and his head, whether it would be possible to skin him, and most importantly, how much you could pay for his bile, if of course he has it.